May the blessings of the Triple Gem be with you all. During the last lecture, we saw how Buddha reduced the whole sensory experience into 5 aggregates. The whole intent here, according to Buddha's instructions, is to see the 5 aggregates as ceasing, arising and ceasing, arising and ceasing, dependent upon the causative factors that cause them. And this Buddha called Yoniso Manasikara, or wise attention. So converting from thinking that all objects and individuals that are the subject of our 5 aggregates as permanent, pleasurable and under my control, we have to now move into this wise attention that Buddha described. And the technique of doing so is the Vipassana meditation. The purpose of this lecture is to show you the technique and the scientific basis of using Vipassana meditation for this purpose. Using the Rohita Sutra, where he reduces the whole universe into 6 sense organs: the body, eye, ear, nose, tongue, and then also the mind. What Buddha did was, he reduced the whole world to these 6 sense organs, but did not dwell too much into the structure and the functioning of these 6 sense organs. What he did was to reduce the whole sensory experience, whether it's through the eye, ear, the nose or the tongue, into 5 basic functions or 5 processes, which he called the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates consist of the body or the physical or the material part of it, the human body and the other objects or individuals that we experience. That is, Buddha called that material part Rupa, and then divided that material component into 4 basic elements. The earth or Patavi. Here in this slide I have marked Buddha's words in Pali in red so that you understand that those are the Buddhist terms that I am using in this lecture. So the material part or Rupa consists of the earth, water, earth component, which is the solid, it's a characteristic of solidity, and the other component is the watery component or Apo, and then there is the fire or the Tejo component that provides the heat for the sustenance of the body, and the other last component is air that keeps the body inflated and also functioning through breathing, etc. So he reduces the first component of the 5 aggregates in the body into 4 great elements. The rest of the components of these 5 aggregates are what Buddha called Nama, are related to the mind. And As I explained earlier, there are 4 processes here. The recognition of objects or individuals, and that is what we call sanya in Buddhism. And there is also the feeling or vedana, and then there is the thinking part or mental constructions or what we call volition that Buddha calls sankhara, and the final component of these 5 aggregates is vijnana, where using the other 4 aggregates we come up with a subjective comprehension or very unique subjective comprehension of the object of concern, whether it's an inanimate object or a living individual. Then Buddha again goes to reduces these 5 aggregates into 2 components, nama and rupa. The rupa, of course, is the one that we described earlier, the material factor, material aggregate of the 5 aggregates. The nama part are the mental factors, and so whether we speak of 5 aggregates or the nama and rupa, it means the same thing. And then Buddha, we can refer back to the conversation between Buddha and this Brahmin, Panchavaggadayaka. Buddha says, Brahmin, the one who is living not attached to, not clinging on to, or not conflicted by the nama or the rupa, or does not lament over it, taking it as me or mine, is called a bhikkhu. In other words, he reduces the whole universe, whole sensory experience into these 2 components, the body and the mind. In this slide, I am comparing how Buddha or an Arahant's sensory experience, example, when they are seeing their mother, with the experience of an uninformed, untrained individual like us. As I explained before, Buddha or the Arahant sees that figure of the mother as rapidly arising and ceasing set of 5 aggregates. For them, there is nothing substantial in these 5 aggregates that are rapidly arising and ceasing based upon the causative factors such as the available light, the figure of the mother, and the I, and the mind. Therefore, when these factors change, when they arise and cease, the experience of the 5 aggregates also arise and cease. For them, there is nothing in this experience of 5 aggregates that is worthwhile to get attached to, or there is nothing to wish for, or they fully understand that because of these changing causative factors, it is completely not within their control. On the other hand, we, the uninformed, untrained individuals, see the same figure of the mother in a completely different, deluded, erroneous fashion. First, we bundle the 6 separate independent sense organs into a fictitious agent or entity called I or me. Then every sensory experience then becomes an act of mine or related to me and myself. The second error that we create is based upon our prior experiences. We have already created a number of concepts, stories, or mental fabrications like what I demonstrated in the first part of the lecture. And each object we have already formulated or designed or fabricated concepts about each object or individual that we see, hear, feel, etc. So now each object or individual that becomes the subject of our sensory experience, in this case, my concept in my mind is the story of the mother. I formulated in my mind, and that concept I call the mother. In the case of my father, the concept that he formulated or created based upon his prior experience was called wife. And for my next door lady, it was the neighbor that I dislike. So now let us analyze the errors or the illusion in this data set that the concept that we created in our brain. So let's go one by one. There is the me, there is the mother, there is this process of 5 aggregates, and how we misinterpreted it. And according to Buddha's analysis, the body is just earth, water, fire and air. The mind is feeling, recognition, thinking and consciousness. So we misinterpreted, or we put into our mind with a corrupted data set. We misinterpreted that these 5 aggregates and the 4 elements, of course, in the 4 elements of the body as me or mine. So when we described I am seeing the mother, the I is not a person but a collection of 5 aggregates. Same way, the same components, the same elements constitute the body of the mother, and her mind has the 4 aggregates and the body and the mind. So what we misinterpreted the 5 aggregates as a mother. Then the reflection of light that was extinguished immediately at the eye, we misinterpreted that experience and described that as I see my mother. The feeling that is associated with that whole episode was mediated by brain chemicals, and we call that maternal or motherly love. The associated recognition was misinterpreted as mother, and that faulty concept was constructed in my mind. Of course, then we compared my perception of that figure as mother to my father's perception, who misinterpreted that same set of data as his wife. And the next door neighbor formed her concept when she had a little fight with the mother. She threw all her garbage after sweeping her garden onto my side. So my mother didn't like it. She gave her tithe, and there was a little disagreement between the two, and that's how that concept was formed in her brain, and she misinterpreted looking at the mother as this is the one that I dislike. So, and I described last time, the whole world of mine and everyone else consists of this kind of erroneous, corrupted data that is stored. I'm using the word stored in very, very loose terms in our mind as corrupted data, as concepts, and in Buddhist terms we call that klesha or defilements. So our whole world is an illusion that is based upon erroneous data, wrong data, corrupted data that we have created and stored in our brain as klesha or defilements. So the path of moving from this corrupted data set to that which we call ignorance, to enlightenment, has to be based on our understanding that we see, hear, taste, feel things that are in our mind and not outside. We see, hear, etc., feel only when we see and hear, we confirm preconceived mental fabrications, constructs that we call defilements or klesha, and these mental fabrications are tainted with our ego or self concept that is superimposed on this data when we cling on to the five aggregates or the processes of perception. Now, just to give the example of the computer, our whole brain is now filled with corrupted data. We see the whole world is a delusion which we experience every day, every moment. Now, the question is, how do you clean the corrupted data set in your computer? And the technique of doing that is vipassana meditation. And we know that that data set is stored in the brain, and it is a set of nerve cells that is creating. I said I use the word stored very loosely. It's not actually stored, but it's created. It's created at the moment of perception. That concept that we create, those concepts, erroneous concepts that we create, are called defilements, and these erroneous data or corrupted data is stored in these brain cells, and we have trillions of brain cells, about 80 to 300, and think of the concept of mother as a small set of nerve cells communicating with each other with brain chemicals that is capable of representing that erroneous data that we call mother. The truth is that it's only a nama rupa, it's a body and a mind, the four elements and the components, and the five, with the four elements constituting the rupa and the five aggregates. Now, I told you that we said that the the best way of cleaning that data set or cleaning that corrupted data set is with meditation. And think of meditation as just like when you exercise your muscles, when you do bodybuilding, you increase the size of your muscles, you strengthen your muscles. We call that process hypertrophy. Your muscles become large, enlarged, they become bigger, and they become stronger. In the same way, if you don't use your muscles, we call that atrophy. Your muscles become much smaller and they become weaker. So the most important thing to realize is that the best brain exercise is meditation. If you exercise, meditation exercises your brain. We were discussing meditation and I described meditation as the best brain exercise. Why do we need that brain exercise? And the answer is a little complex because I said that we, I'm using the word we within quotes, we create a erroneous data set, we create our own illusory world by grabbing on to or clinging on to 5 aggregates that constitute the whole human experience. Now, in order to clear, and that corrupted data which we call klesha or defilements fills our brain. Now we have the task of cleaning that corrupted data set, and that requires 2 kinds of meditations. One is what we call concentration meditation or samatha meditation. And what I am talking about is the concentration meditation or samatha meditation, and I will go on to vipassana meditation. And it is always said that you have to first calm your mind with concentration or samatha meditation before you get on to vidarshana, and I will explain to you why. So I told you again, the best brain exercise is meditation, and it is based on this concept of neuroplasticity. It's the brain's ability to reorganize and form new connections and exercise the brain cells. The more you meditate, the more you exercise your brain cells. It is based on this concept of what we call disuse or use of cells. There is a concept in neuroscience, use it or lose it. If we exercise our muscles, the muscles will hypertrophy, muscles will become larger and stronger, and that's the more you use it, the more stronger we become. The other part of it is, if you don't use it, we lose it. What happens is that if you don't use the muscles become atrophied, the muscles become smaller and weaker. The same principle applies to the brain. Now we have lived our whole life on a pattern of corrupted data, and we have to, if we don't move away from that and build new circuits, the old patterns tend to repeat, and we will continue to suffer and continue with the sansaric experience. And that has to be done in a very systematic manner. Blazing a trail through a jungle of neurons makes a tremendous effort. But if you slash the same trail every day, a new path gets established. Now, before we leave the topic of samatha meditation or concentration meditation, I want to introduce another scientist, Professor Richard Davidson. He is the professor of psychology and psychiatry at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and he has so many other qualifications. Professor Davidson made friends with His Holiness Dalai Lama, and he asked His Holiness Dalai Lama to loan him some seasoned meditators. And he brought about, I think there was about eight or 10 meditators. He brought them over to his lab, and then he attached this cap of electrodes. Each cap consists about some 256 electrodes onto their head, and then he asked them to meditate. And what he did was, while these seasoned yogis, seasoned monks were meditating, he also gave the same meditation instructions to his graduate students in the university, and they acted as a control group. So he studied what happens in the brain while these monks and the students were doing meditation. They were doing compassion meditation or Maitri Bhavana. Again, I'm trying to summarize a very long study into few things, but the most important finding they did was that these seasoned monks, when they meditated, there are several different kinds of brain waves that you can detect with these electrodes, the cap of electrodes. But the most important thing they found was that these monks had a multitude of gamma waves when they thought of meditating, and they were firing gamma waves at a rate when they were meditating, and the gamma waves were also in their brain, or these gamma waves were present in their brain even after they stopped. On the other hand, the graduate students had occasionally had one or two gamma waves. These gamma waves actually represent the highest level of functioning of our brain. Dr. Bruce Lipton describes in his book, The Biology of Belief, that a pilot, when he is landing a plane on a runway, has the highest, not very many, but the highest degree of formation of gamma waves when he is landing a plane on the runway. But these seasoned meditators had a multitude of gamma waves, exhibited significantly more gamma waves, gamma band activity, and some of the monks produced gamma wave activity more powerful than any previously recorded in a healthy person. The most important thing here is the longer the monk has been meditating, the stronger the gamma wave activity. This is what we call a dose response relationship, which gives a very, very good indication that of a cause and effect relationship. So they said much of the activity associated with the prefrontal was associated with prefrontal cortex, and this whole results were published in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And with this, so to summarize, seasoned meditators with concentration meditation produces a lot of gamma waves which are very useful. That is the highest level of activity of our brain, and that is why in most of Buddhist teachings they talk about what is called a samatha purvangama vipassana, which means you have to, if you concentrate your mind with samadhi, you develop gamma waves, and those gamma waves help you to get the full effect of vipassana meditation. So with this, with the publication of these results, there was an explosion of interest about meditation. These activity, these results about meditation, everything was described on a special issue of Time, Scientific American, and so on. And that is what they call a meditation explosion. And in that year, there was a 300% increase over a 5-year period followed by this publication in the increase of publications about meditation. Here I am referring to concentration meditation or samatha meditation. The US Army was using, then began to use it. The Intel was using it, Etna was using it, and they were using concentration meditation, samatha meditation, to help their executives to increase their productivity. This is the best example of how meditation can increase the day-to-day productivity of our mental activities. In now, meditation has become a part of the curriculum in many medical schools. The British school system is using it, and in Sri Lanka, the Reverend Dhammajiva is using it is with his concept of what we call Satipasala. Now we come to Vipassana meditation. So once you concentrate, once you develop gamma waves with concentration meditation, you are ready for insight meditation or Vipassana Bhavana. Vipassana is the Pali word for insight. Vi means special, Passana means seeing or perceiving. So Vipassana Bhavana or insight meditation is a technique to develop or see through clearly what is happening in our brain. I told you that is the way. When we know that our data set is corrupt, when we know that we are using erroneous data, we are creating the corrupt data set, Vipassana Bhavana helped us to develop the insight, know why we are wrong, and get rid of that corrupted data set and come to an understanding of what reality is. And that is why it is called insight meditation. Again, I have no time to go into the techniques of Vipassana meditation, but there are 4 kinds of vipassana meditation, kaya anupassana, thinking of the body. Now remember the 5 aggregates. Body is a part of the 5 aggregates. We created erroneous data, corrupted data with the body. Now we are with the deeply concentrated mind, we are looking at the body to correct that data set. So Buddha described there are several different methods of doing the meditation on the body, to call kaya anupassana, vipassana meditation. And one of those meditations is to look at the 4 elements that the body is made up of, and we call that process dhatu manasikara. In other words, here we are trying to break the body down, looking at the body, break the body down to the 4 elements, the patavi or the solidness, the water or the apo or the watery element, tejo or the heat, and apo, tejo, vayu, patavi, and vayu or the air element. So we are now breaking down the human body to these 4 components, and then that once you start meditating deeply into that concept, looking at that concept, you realize in this body there is no me or mine. That is the goal of using kaya anupassana. We were talking about how, we were discussing how concentration meditation or samatha meditation help to focus our mind. Focus, actually our mind is called a monkey mind. Focus that monkey mind and develop deep concentration, which is represented by the amount of gamma waves that we develop with the development of advanced concentrated states, which we call jhana. And then using that very focused, developed mind that is producing gamma waves, we are now looking at the body, breaking it down into, there are several techniques of doing it, of doing the kaya anupassana or the body, contemplating on the body. We can look at the 32 foul parts of the body, but here we are looking at the 4 elements that constitute the body, trying to prove that the whole body is just 4 elements and nothing else, and there is nothing called a me or mine in this body. So that's how kaya anupassana works. Okay. Now, just to the problem I told you in the corrupted data set is that we take this body made of 4 elements, and of course there are other parts of it, and we can reduce the whole body to the 4 elements and show that there is nothing called me or mine in this body. So, but the problem is the 4 elements in the body or 4 elements in the world, in the body or outside, the entire world is made up of these 4 elements. But we give different values to what the 4 elements in my body or 4 elements outside. For example, what you see is what is called an ant hill. Ant hill is nothing but a heap of earth, and this is the earth element. Now, if you take the earth from that ant hill, mix it up with a little water, there is some air in it, and then you bake it into a nice block, it becomes a brick. Now, that brick is worth more than the earth in the ant hill. Now, you take the same earth, if you take this marble statue, it is the same earth, but we give a lot of value to that marble statue, and this is a gemstone. The gemstone is also earth, but we give a lot of value to the gemstone. We become attached to it, we become attracted to it, we become attached to it, we want to cling on to it every time we see, we feel, we recognize that, and we want to protect it, and we create karma, or we create deeds with the body, mind, or words to keep it close to us, keep it protected, and if we don't have it, to acquire it and acquire more and more of it. That is what is called tanha, or attachment. And when you start meditating on the body and the outside, you meditate on the body to make sure that there is nothing here called a me and mine, and so that you don't get attached to your body. That attachment to your body is one of the main components of tanha, or attachment. And then you look at the outside environment, that the whole world is composed of these four elements: apo, tejo, vayu, patavi, air, water, earth, and heat. And then you realize that, come to the conclusion that there is nothing to cling on to, that there is nothing to get attached to. Now, you can apply the same analysis. Now, we applied the same one analysis to the body, what is inside here, and the material in our body, and the material outside, which I clearly showed that there is nothing but the four elements, and there is no reason, there is no justifiable reason to get attached to these four elements. And as you keep on developing this concept, your mind become released from attachment. Now, there is another vipassana meditation technique that's called Vedananupassana. I'm not going into all the techniques of vipassana. Here, with the concentrated mind, with having developed enough gamma waves, the sharpest development of your mind, you're now looking at the feelings. So, Vedananupassana translates to mindfulness of feelings, or contemplation of the sensations. During Vedananupassana, practitioner, you are not concentrating like a particular element or anything here. You are observing your mind, the feelings that come into your mind with your mind. So, you observe the feelings that arise and subside without clinging on to them, without seeking or avoiding them. Remember, I told you the Vedana or the feelings are mediated by the brain chemicals, and these chemicals last only a few milliseconds, less than only couple of portions of millionth of a second. And it is difficult to see the transient nature of these feelings unless you are really you have really concentrated and achieved the samadhi or the jhana or jhanic concentration to see. You are now using that as a tool, your mind as a tool to observe the feelings in your mind, to see how they arise, how they cease, and how they arise and how they cease. And that becomes that you develop insight as to the transient nature of this Vedana or the feeling, and you realize the person, the meditator realizes there is no justifiable reason to get attached to it. I told you it is the Vedana that really helps you to cling on to, grab on to all five aggregates as me and mine, and you realize that there is no need to do that. I'll go a little bit more into what you really, how you see the feelings in Vedananupassana. While experiencing a pleasant feeling, the meditator is just aware that you are experiencing a pleasant feeling. That's all. And you also see how transient this feeling is, how fast it ceases. Then you are experiencing an unpleasant feeling. The meditator is aware that you are experiencing an unpleasant feeling. You are experiencing a neutral feeling. You realize that you are experiencing a feeling that is neither pleasant or unpleasant. So the meditator is just being aware of the feelings and the rapid rate at which these feelings arise and cease. With that, the meditator is able to extend that insight, that understanding to other aspects of the five aggregates, the sanya or recognition, and the sankara or other thoughts, and realizes how much these thought processes are in a state of flux. They arise and cease, arise and cease. Now, as we develop that process, Buddha clearly describes the path to enlightenment with this, how we proceed along this path to develop enlightenment. So you become aware that there is no me, it's only a nama rupa. Buddha calls that the nama rupa paricheda jnana. And when you realize that the feelings and the five aggregates are rising and ceasing, that we are in a state of flux, you call that the udaya vaya jnana. And then all of a sudden you only begin to see how fast these things are disappearing. You only see the vaya or the disintegration, the ceasing of these thought processes. You develop some degree of dissatisfaction or bhaya, which Buddha calls the bhaya jnana. And at that point, you really want to understand this process, and you become disillusioned. You develop dispassion about this whole five aggregates. Again, I have no time to describe all of what happens during the process. And this is the last slide. Let me summarize. With mindfulness, we want to tie down our monkey mind, and when we are concentrated enough, monkey mind means mind, the mind keeps on jumping from one topic to another, one topic to another. Then we generate adequate amount of gamma waves, or make our meditation, make our concentration sharp with the development of gamma waves. We begin to realize that the five aggregates, the whole universe, the whole world is nothing but the nama rupa, or the physical body, and the physicality and mentality. Then with that same process, we convince that our mind, there is nothing in our mind, there is nothing called self, and we begin to see all the sense experiences from the perspective of non-self. And the most important thing that I have to conclude with is Buddha uses two words, bhavita bahulikata. Practice, 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 practice. Bhavita means practicing, bahulikata means practicing, practicing, practicing over and over and over again. So with that, the neuronal connections, the nerve connections that represent the corrupt data will now begin to cease, and we develop new brain muscle that represents the reality of no self, the reality that this is only a nama rupa, that these five aggregates keep on rising, ceasing, and there is nothing substantial here, there is nothing to wish for, there is nothing to call me or mine. So I have now taken you through the whole sensory experience of how we live in a deluded world, and with forming a corrupted data set in our brain, and how to use samatha and vipassana meditation to get rid of that corrupted data set and develop ourselves for march towards enlightenment. Thank you.
To catch the full program and more, subscribe to MMC TV USA on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok